Hello YouTube, Goddard Radio Mosca here again with another beer review for you today, as is usual. Actually, it was my 150th video, but today for this one we're going to look at the last in my series of 4 sort of big brewery Christmas beers. If you remember from my last couple of videos, I picked these guys up in the Galeria Kaufhof here in Heidelberg, and this brewery is actually quite well regarded throughout Baden-Württemberg as being one of the better big breweries, if you like. So today we're going to have a look at the Alpirsbacher Klosterbräu Weihnachtsbier. If you remember from my last video as well with the Fürstenberg winter beer, I explained the difference between the winter beers and the Weihnachtsbier. The Weihnachtsbiers tend to be more like Oktoberfest beers, the sort of kind of Märzen style, almost akin, if you like, to a sort of English pale ale, but the winter beer is like a Vienna lager with a nice bit of spice and stuff like that in it. You can always go back into my channel and have a look over the other Christmas beers that I've reviewed for you over the last little while as well. But as is usual with my beer reviews, I'll just take you through a little bit of a history of the Alpirsbacher brewery, but as I always say, if you are simply just interested in the tasting of this beer, then feel free to go on towards the latter part of the video and you will catch that particular segment there. As you might have guessed, the brewery is located in Alpirsbach, and this is in the Black Forest region of Germany. It's actually not very far from Freiburg in the southwest corner of Germany. It's near it, it's on the same sort of level of latitude, if you like, as Strasbourg in France. But the company was founded in 1877 by Johann Gottfried Glauner, who bought the company under the name Löwenbräu. Obviously this means lion brew in German. But this restarted the old monastery brewery. But when I was researching this brewery, in fact, I couldn't really find any history of the monastery for a search, so I'll search it more in depth and include that in the next beer review that I'll do for Alpirsbacher. But in 1880 the company passed on to Johann's son Karl Albert Glauner, and then in 1906 the name was actually changed to Alpirsbacher Klosterbräu. But since this time the brewery has been owned by the Glauner family, and it's actually now in the 4th generation of family ownership, and currently the brewery team includes the CEO Markus Schleuer, and then Karl Glauner, who is the 4th generation of the family, and there's also 3 other officers on the board of this brewery. But today the company have 85 employees with an annual turnover of 17.8 million euros and a brewing capacity of 180,000 hectolitres. And the company is apparently quite involved with local enterprise and apparently has several investments in other companies both locally and throughout Germany. And Alpirsbacher are actually considered as one of the leading brewers in Baden-Württemberg, of course. But all of their brewing is located in Alpirsbach, and apparently the brewery has a special pipeline which links the fermentation and storage cellar with the bottling, and the brewery is actually located within the old monastery building. If you go and look at the website, which I'll put the link for in the video description, it's a really beautiful old building. But this actually also houses a museum which houses many historic pieces of brewing equipment that they've used over the years in this brewery, so a really interesting place to go and visit. And they also have a schnapps distillery and a little beer hall where you can go and drink and sample all the traditional German and Baden-Württemberg foods, of course, there. But there's actually a very good section on their website as well about their brewing process, and it seems like they're really an interesting company. In fact, they've actually got an extensive array of company values, and this encompasses giving back to the local community, producing top quality beer with the drinker in mind, i.e. the best materials, the best flavours. They extensively sample their beer to make sure it is of top quality, and they also respect the use of their natural resources as well. They're very proud of their natural water source from the Black Forest. Of course, you get some really good water in this sort of southwestern part of Germany. Also over in Bavaria as well, there's some really good water for beer brewing, and their water is actually untreated here. But they're also quite a staunch advocate of responsible drinking as well. They've been involved in Germany. You can be 16 to drink beer, but then you have to be 18 to drink spirits. So they're a big sort of promoter of this thing, and I think it's on the bottle somewhere. I can see, well, when we have a look at the bottle label, we can have a look at it. But they're a really interesting company to look at, and like I say, in a later review I'll try and find out more about the monastery itself and tell you a little bit about that as well. But to tell you about the other Alpirsbacher beers, in the classic range they have the Kleiner Monk, the Small Monk, which is a Dortmund Helles style beer. They have Spezial, which is another Dortmund Helles beer. They have Pils, the alcohol-free beer, and the Radler as well. They've got 2 different types of Radler in that range. In their speciality range, they've got the Klosterswickel, which is a sort of Keller beer, if you like, or a land beer, full beer sort of thing. Farmhouse beer is probably a good way to describe it. They have the Klosterstark beer, which is a Helles Bock, and that sounds a really nice one actually when I was reading about it. Interestingly as well, they also have one called Ambrosius, which is a Belgian strong ale, and I've never heard of a German brewery that actually will brew in this style, so that one will be quite interesting to try. And they also have the Klosterstoff, which is a Märzen style beer. And their family series, they have the Hefe Hellweizen, the Weizen Isotonisch, which apparently is an alcohol-free wheat beer. They have the Hefe Dunkelweizen, obviously a Dunkel Hefeweizen beer, and the Hefe Kristallweizen beer. So as is usual, the three varieties of Hefeweizen that are very common in Germany. And in their seasonal range, they have the Weihnachtsbier, this one here, the Frühlingswickel, which is their spring beer, which is a Keller beer, and they have their Herbstfest beer, which is a sort of Oktoberfest Märzen, and this is the one that comes out in the autumn. And of course, all of these beers are brewed in accordance with the German purity law of 1516. And as I say, this brewery is very, very well regarded throughout Baden-Württemberg. But let's get on to the tasting of this guy itself, and I'll just bring up the camera and let you have a little look at the bottle art and stuff on this one. This is quite a nice one actually. You can see the Alpirsbach monk on the bottle there. You can see it's quite a nice label as well. You can see the picture better on the back that's meant to be on the label. You can see Santa Claus in his sleigh with one of the Alpirsbacher monks there. And I think they've got beer barrels on the sleigh actually, which is quite funny. And then you can see the little hut at the back there. You can just see the beer barrels on the sleigh there. And I think, yeah, they're very actually. As I mentioned, this brewery like to promote a sort of state identity within Germany, so they've got quite a few things on the back here just about the German style beer and things like that. This little star here is for a Baden-Württemberg beer, but it's a really nice looking label actually. And just to tell you a little bit about the beer itself, there was a little bit of a history behind this beer, and you can go on the website and have a look. All of the beers have a sort of documentation sheet with it, but it's all in German, and I think I managed to translate this fairly well. But this one is a 5.6% Oktoberfest Märzen beer. It uses 100% South German malts, and it uses Hallertauer Perle and Spelter Select hops. And the beer apparently has been brewed since 1880, and it's brewed from an old recipe from the monastery when it was still occupied by the monks, of course. So quite an interesting one for us to try today. But without further ado, let's get this guy open and actually get on with the tasting here. Forgot to show you the bottle cap actually. So here is the Alpirsbacher Klosterbräu bottle cap, basically the same as this little bit on the bottle here. But let's get this guy out and get on with the tasting here. As I mentioned, this is a 5.6% Oktoberfest Märzen style beer. Almost akin, if you like, to a sort of English gardeny pale ale in my experience. But a really nice looking beer actually when you pour this one out. Really bright golden colour, as you can see there from the natural light coming in the window today. I'm filming during the day for this one here. As you can see, a nice sort of, it's actually a sort of white and creamy head, just under a finger of head there, if you like. A lot of little carbonation bubbles coming up to the top of the beer there. It's a really attractive looking beer. I don't think I'm going to get much lacing in the glass from this one, but let's give the guy a smell and see how we got on here. It smells like a typical sort of Märzen beer, if you like. Yeah, there's a bit of caramel malt in the aroma, but it's actually very bready, which you expect from the sort of Märzen Oktoberfest style there. The head's just dissipating now, it's just becoming a very thin layer there. But yeah, it's a lot of caramel malts in there, some nice bready character. You can perhaps just pick up a little hint of spice if you take it in quite deeply, but it's mainly a herbal and grassy character from the hops that's dominating this one. So this one might be a little bit more hoppy than the more malty Weihnachts beers that I reviewed for you previously. But let's give this guy a taste and see how we get on. Starts off with a little bit of spice actually, which is interesting. Yeah, this is quite a nice one actually, yeah. It starts with just a little bit of spice and a little bit of sweetness in there. Maybe just a little hint of citrus, but again it does have a big bready malt base, and there's a little bit of caramel mixed in there with the spice. And it's going into the more hoppy character at the end of the beer. The hoppy character at the end is quite nice. There's a good mix of sort of floral and herbal character in there. Maybe just a little bit of grassiness as well. It's an interesting hop blend at the end of this one. But yeah, it's got a sort of underlying spice character that stays with you throughout, through the sort of spicy opening into the bready malts and then into the hoppy character at the end. But yeah, it starts kind of sweeter a little bit. It almost has a little bit of a sort of corn sweetness at the start, if you like. Then it goes into the big bready and doughy malts in there, where there is just a little bit of caramel in there. It's quite subdued. It's more the spice that's coming out in the bready aromas, I think, and then you're getting a nice sort of hoppy, bitter finish to this one. That's a good mix of sort of herbal and grassy and floral hops in there. This is what makes this beer quite interesting, is that it does come out with a good little bitter kick at the end of it. Yeah, this is quite a nice one. Exactly what this has to do with being a Weihnachtsbier, or a Christmas beer in a way. I'm still a little bit puzzled as to why this is the Weihnachtsbier is sort of an Oktoberfest style beer, when really I would have thought that, you know, like the winter beer style is more of a Christmas style beer. So it's quite interesting in that respect. And in the style of being a Märzen, or a sort of Pilsner beer, if you like, it is a nice beer. But like I've said with the other 3 Weihnachtsbiers, I'm not quite sure exactly where the Christmas element with this comes in. But maybe it's a common, the Weihnachtsbier seems to be a common style within Germany, but usually a lot of the small breweries make a Weihnachtsbock. Usually it's a bock beer that you'll get at Christmas from a lot of the small breweries. So I don't know why there's a sort of Oktoberfest Märzen style beer from the big breweries. But in terms of the mouthfeel with this one, I would say it's probably mid-bodied actually. It's actually quite a wet feeling one, this. It has a little bit of oily character, but mainly a sort of wet mouthfeel. It's actually quite a crisp beer. The carbonation on this one is a little bit more forward, but it does smooth out, but it is a little bit more forward than the other Weihnachtsbiers I've reviewed for you. But yeah, it's quite crisp, and it's quite a refreshing beer actually. It's an interesting one. Like I say, overall, again, it's a nice Oktoberfest Märzen style beer, but I'm not so sure exactly why this is a Christmas beer, if you like. To me, this would be a really, really good Oktoberfest beer, but I don't know why it doesn't have the sort of more prominent spicy thing. The spice in this one just lays underneath, and it gives it a nice little something different. But at the same time, it's not what I would expect from a winter beer or a winter beer. I like the winter beer style better, and honestly, but it's a nice sort of Oktoberfest Märzen Pils style beer, if you like. So if you're into that and you get a chance to try this one, give it a go. And if you have tried this one, let me know your own thoughts on it. But as well with this one, the hoppy ending to it is interesting. You've got a nice mix of floral, herbal and grassy hops in there, and that's from the German Pearl and the other select hops that are in there. It's a really, really nice bitter ending to this one, and it is interesting in that way. It distinguishes itself a little bit within the Märzen style, but as I say, not sure exactly why this style is this style is quite popular among the bigger breweries in Germany, if you like, the sort of Märzen style beer for Christmas. To me, it would seem more sensible to make a sort of dark beer that's warming and things like that. But anyway, that must just be the way they do it here. But anyway, thanks again for watching my beer reviews. I hope you found this one informative. I'll get some more Alpirsbacher beer, hopefully the Belgian Strong Ale at some point actually. I'll get more of the Alpirsbacher beer, and indeed the other Weihnachtsbier breweries. I'll get more of their stuff and review that for you at a later date. Next up will be beers from the 2 small breweries within Heidelberg. I've got those ready to film the reviews for, so thanks again for watching my beer reviews. Let me know in the comments section your own thoughts on the beer, and always suggest beers to me as well. But thanks again for your continued support with my beer reviews, and I'll be back soon with another one. Please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. I'll catch you soon. Cheers.